The forester's house. It all started as a simple trip to nature. My friend Alex convinced me to spend the weekend in a remote village to escape the hustle and bustle of the city. We decided to stay with his distant relatives who lived near the forest. Their house had once been a forester's hunting lodge, but was now just a cosy, albeit somewhat old-fashioned, countryside home. When we arrived, we were greeted by an elderly man named Peter, the owner of the house, and his wife, Maria. They seemed kind and welcoming, though I noticed a hint of unease in their eyes. The house was surrounded by dense woods, and the atmosphere here was entirely different. Silence, broken only by the rustling wind and occasional bird cries. Dinner passed peacefully. Alex and I laughed, listening to Peter's stories about his life in the forest. But as night fell, the mood shifted. While we were sitting by the fireplace, Maria suddenly asked, "Have you heard the old legend about those who live in the forest?" I smiled, thinking it was just another local ghost story. But Peter's expression grew serious. "It's not just a legend," he said. "This forest is strange. Unusual things have happened here." Intrigued, I asked for more details. Reluctantly, Peter began to explain. He said that long ago, a forester and his family had lived in these woods, but disappeared under mysterious circumstances. Locals believed the forest had swallowed them. At night, people occasionally claimed to hear strange sounds like voices or see flickering lights among the trees. "Just don't go into the forest at night," Maria added firmly. Of course, these stories only fueled our curiosity. Alex, like me, loved adventures, and we decided that an evening walk would be the perfect way to test the legends. An hour after dark, we set off with flashlights. At first, everything seemed normal, just trees, creaking branches, and the crunch of leaves underfoot. But the farther we went, the stronger the feeling grew that someone was watching us. "Maybe we should head back," I suggested uneasily. Alex waved me off. "Come on, it's just local folklore." But soon, we began hearing something strange. At first, it was a faint rustling, like someone creeping through the undergrowth. Then we heard quiet laughter. I froze. "Did you hear that?" I whispered. Alex nodded, his confidence fading. We turned and shone our flashlights into the darkness, but saw nothing. "All right, enough of this. Let's head back," Alex muttered. We turned to leave, but after a few minutes, I realized something was wrong. The path looked different. Trees we had passed earlier now appeared in places they shouldn't. This isn't the way," Alex stammered. Now I began to panic too. We tried to find familiar landmarks, but everything looked wrong. The darkness seemed thicker, as though the forest itself was unwilling to let us go. Suddenly we heard a child's voice. "Help me!" My heart clenched. The voice sounded faint, like a child calling out from deep within the forest. "That's impossible," Alex whispered. "There can't be anyone here." But the voice came again, closer this time. We exchanged uneasy glances, realizing it was dangerous to stay put, and decided to follow the sound. Soon we saw a light. It was a faint glow, like a lantern in the distance. We hurried toward it, hoping to find someone who could help us. But as we approached, the light disappeared. Instead, we found ourselves standing before an old, crumbling house. "Is this the forester's house?" Alex whispered. I didn't want to go inside, but something compelled us forward. The door creaked open as we stepped onto the porch, revealing a dark, eerie interior. The walls were marked with strange scratches, and the air felt thick, as though the house itself was holding its breath. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind us. "Who's there?" Alex shouted, his flashlight sweeping the room. In the corner, we saw something that made our blood run cold. A figure stood there, a woman with hollow, empty eyes. She stared at us, motionless. "Leave," she whispered in a low, rasping voice. I grabbed Alex's arm, and we bolted out of the house. The forest around us seemed alive. Branches groaned, whispers echoed, and shadows moved unnaturally. We ran blindly until we saw the lights of Peter's house in the distance. When we stumbled inside, Maria quickly locked the door and began praying under her breath. Peter looked at us with a mix of anger and concern. "I warned you not to go into the forest," he said gravely. We told them everything we had seen. Peter listened quietly before saying, "That was her, the forester's wife. She's still there, trapped in that cursed house. Her soul cannot find peace." We stayed awake the rest of the night, too shaken to sleep. At dawn, Peter walked us to our car and insisted we leave. "Never come back here," he said firmly. We did as he said. I've never returned to that village, but I often think about that night. Sometimes I dream of the forester's house and the woman with hollow eyes. But every time I wake up, I'm grateful that we made it out alive.